maternal grandmother, Altagracia Otero, lived here in the early 1900s. And how do I know? Was because her husband died and she had to make a living for herself, and she sold bootleg alcohol and was arrested, and her address is here. My parents were born in Tucson. Their parents were born in Tucson. And my father's family in particular goes back to the 18th century here in Tucson. My parents were both born in this barrio here, sometimes referred to as Barrio Viejo. Most Tucsonenses who have lived in Tucson for more than 50 years have a connection to La Calle in this place. The number of people that were on the streets was just a marvel, but the educational system had taught me that it was not cool to speak Spanish in school, and we were prohibited from speaking Spanish to each other, even on the playground. And so coming here felt different. It felt like we were in a different place, a place where we belonged, certainly, where we had a demographic majority. I knew a lot of Chinese Americans who spoke Spanish. I met African Americans who spoke Spanish. That mixture was very, very unique. That area too, I must say, was the most multi-ethnic community ever in Tucson, ever. There was a program that was passed by Tucson voters in 1966. Merchants in downtown Tucson thought it was going to bring more people downtown. And at that time, the city is just trying to reinvent itself as American. They didn't want tourists to come to Tucson and say, hey, Tucson's a Mexican place. They wanted to change that. My mother used to live in a house that was here. In fact, she was born in this house. I think people wanted the parking.
My ex-husband's childhood home, they had apple trees and apricot trees, and it was right where one of the parking lots of TCC is. You know, people started realizing that these are historic buildings, and those buildings they could save. They went from being almost worthless. They're probably selling for millions now.
Come on. This is the house that now we know as the Diane Keaton house, and you can see it was a series of smaller units that were combined into a big house. I remember it when it was a lot of adobe units, and they didn't have roofs on them. They were pretty worn down. Newspaper ran a story on Diane Keaton selling this house for more than $1 million.
I read something in a magazine or saw something on TV that was talking about this neighborhood and talking about Tucson as being, I don't know, you know, when publicity like that gets out, it ruins towns.
In these economic changes, the people that have moved in here and that are able to preserve their house, they're just a different kind of people. We don't see any people walking here anymore. There's no markets that are here. Used to be, but there's nothing that would attract people from the south side, people that are like my family, to come here other than to walk here and see these streets. I drive my sister, who's 82, through here, and we just reminisce. And there's this feeling of nostalgia around this all, but we know that we don't we own a piece of its history, and I'm glad that it's preserved the way it is, but it's not the feel and it's not the people that I remember who once lived here, and it's not the energy that it doesn't have the energy that it once had. This is a very beautiful scene. I love all these cactus. So one day me and Alfie were walking and these loose pieces are on the ground. I planted them in my yard. Their parents are one of these cactus from the old barrio. I think the issue of gentrification is something that's very pressing here, where the identity of this neighborhood has changed. I think it's scaring people that live south of here, that this is a model of what's going to happen to their neighborhoods. What's interesting is some neighborhood groups are coming together. The Barrio Coalition is coming together, and they're aware of what happened here. It motivates them to preemptively move and voice their concerns. What we see first is the transmission of intergenerational knowledge, where the mother is conveying to the child that not to forget history. The parent is also saying, look beyond what's there. That if you look beyond these structures that now comprise the Tucson Convention Center, that there's more history there.